Stanford, the beneficiary of a controversial decision by Oregon to run the football instead of taking a knee at the end of the fourth quarter. Stanford recovered a fumble, kicked the game-tying field goal, and won the game in overtime. Here are both coaches on the late fumble.
We're trying to get one more first down with 2nd and 2. You know, it's a play that we feel good about. 2 tights over that side, 2 hands on the ball. It's first down, the game's over. If you could kneel it, you're going to have to punt the ball. If you don't get a first down, they're going to use another timeout. You're going to get it back. I don't know what the charts at the time, but you have to punt the ball and you have to execute a punt as well, which, we feel confident in our guys. I mean, be aggressive.
Biggest play of the game. We're down, and the guys still believe, but it was hard. It was hard to think that we were going to come back as they're driving late in the second half, in the third quarter. And sometimes you need fortune to make the funny shaped ball bounce your way. And it did.
Yeah, it bounced Stanford's way. So, Greg, should Oregon have just taken a knee at the end of the fourth quarter instead of running the ball?
No, because you never want to put the game into the hands of a snapper and a punter. If you don't believe me, ask Michigan and Michigan State from a couple years ago, and more specifically Jalen Watts-Jackson, who returned that bobbled punt to the house to ice it for Sparty. No, they did the right thing. You just have to trust that your players aren't going to extend the ball on 2nd and 3 with 51 seconds left and fumble it. I mean, they literally gift-wrapped the game and handed it to Stanford. So it was the correct decision to run the ball. One more first down and the game is over. You just have to keep the ball within the framework of your body as opposed to letting it get outside and potentially strip, Joey.
I agree with you. Nobody wants your punter on the field at the end of a game. Not just does he have to handle the ball, but then you have to block the 10 or 11 guys up front who are trying to come block the punt. It's just unthinkable as a coach that you're running back in this situation where, quite honestly, the first down is much less important than holding on to the football. So you don't even try to get a first down. You put 2 hands on it, you run up in there, and 99.9% of the times that this happens, the running back gets tackled, holds onto the football, you go back to the huddle, run another play. In this case, that didn't happen, and so then, of course, we start to think, maybe they should have taken a knee. No, it was the right call. Run the football.
Yeah, you got to feel for the kid because mistakes happen everywhere, but that one's certainly very costly. All right, guys, that brings us to the latest college football rankings presented by PlayStation. As you can see, Stanford right there at number 7. And then they're going into their game against 8th-ranked Notre Dame. Joey, do you think that Stanford is a real playoff contender now, specifically with the way that they were able to win that game?
They're a contender, but they need help. I mean, if the top 5 teams went out, then Stanford's going to need some help to get in. We're at that time of year where, there's still 6 or 7 teams that are thinking to themselves, if we win out the rest of our games, start looking at their schedule, then they can get into the playoff. And Notre Dame would be having the same exact conversation as they're both sitting there 1 number apart. They're both saying the same thing. If we win out, can we get into the playoff? I believe both teams are going to need some help.
I'm not on board with Stanford yet. Still, they have to play against Washington. They have to go to Notre Dame. And this team still lacks a certain level of firepower. The strongest attribute of this Stanford team is Bryce Love running the football, and he's been held in check. Even against a defense in Oregon that's solid but far from spectacular. So Stanford, yeah, they're a good team. No one's denying that. But they got to put a 60-minute performance together, which they haven't really done. They've been great in the second half of football games, but I haven't seen the entirety of a really nice body of work throughout the course of a game. They're a good team, a solid team, but a playoff contender, I'm not willing to go that far. If they go on the road to Notre Dame and get that win, then it's a completely different conversation.
Laura, maybe I misunderstood the question. I was just assuming that we were saying if they went out, do they get in? Now, don't get me wrong.
Okay,
I am not saying that I think that they are better than some of the teams at the top. I think in this season, we have about as large of a gap between the top 5 teams and the rest of the country as we've ever had in the playoff era. So I am not saying, believe me, Greg, I'm with you. I am not on board saying that Stanford deserves to be with those teams. But if they win out, I think they got a conversation.
You're on board. No, he went out on a limb, though, Laura. That's big. He said an undefeated Power 5 champion in Stanford at 13-0 would get in the playoff. That's big. Well done.
No, not what I said.
No,
not what I said. They need some help.
Fair.
Hey, listen, that McElroy is sneaky. He gets that in there, Joey. Good job calling him out on that. How about Oregon,
Thank
though,
you.
guys? Do we think, Joey, that Oregon's playoff chances are done?
I don't know that done is the right word. I hate to, it's like last week when you tried to close out the Heisman Trophy conversation already. Running backs are out. I don't like closing things off this early in the season. We're only, 4 games in. Plenty of time, plenty of football left. Now, Oregon, who I thought through their first 3 games, didn't look great on the offensive side of the ball. And then in this game against their best competition, they looked really good, at least for one half. It looked like Stanford didn't deserve to be on the field with Oregon for the first half of football. I wouldn't say that they're done, but they're going to need a lot of help to get back in it.
I was very impressed by Oregon this weekend. They played really sound, and they showed a lot of athleticism, which they always show. But you know what I saw, Joey, was a physical presence that I haven't seen from Oregon in years. So they were more physical, and they handled the line of scrimmage better than I can ever remember. And I would walk away from this game thinking, you know, we gift-wrapped that game. We completely blew it, but look at what we're capable of when we're playing at the top of our game. So I'm not willing to write Oregon off just yet because they have the firepower and the schedule, like we saw a second ago,